And we're live. Actually, we're on the Bearded Philosophy Twitter, but that's okay because we don't have a Bearded Sports Twitter. Hugh, I would like to welcome you to the first annual live stream of the new addition to our what was the word I used earlier? Our
empire, wasn't it?
Our empire,
Yeah.
Bearded Sports. The reason we have this empire is simply because and I said before on the other channel, we were losing people when we started talking about sports. And we have a lot of people that have been interested and have commented. And one thing I want to very quickly bring up, we published our first video, and I made it a point. I don't know if you noticed we had our first comment as well.
Oh, I didn't. On the sports.
No, you're not. Yeah, so you haven't seen it. So on New Sports, we have a new comment. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say thank you because we have a new subscriber who commented. So I'm just going to open that up. Let's just bring this up here. Go to my channel and comments. Here we go. And sharing my screen. Yep. So everybody new to the Bearded Sports world, you'll learn that I am terrible at running the show because I can't find the comments.
It's multitasking. Sean is terrible at it, he's saying, and he's a human being. We can't do it, but he just in particular struggles with it.
Can't be perfect. Just can't do it. I'm trying to find the comment here. So fortunately, I'm when I make the shorts of this, I'm going to edit around this. But I wanted to make it a point to thank and welcome our first subscriber. Now we have 3 subscribers, but we have a first subscriber, and I think it's only right and correct to highlight this first subscriber.
Yeah,
I think we have to. I'm there. Okay, so I just wanted to say thank you to our new subscriber, and I'll bring up the name here. I'm going to share that now. It is Christine Dugmore. So Christine, I said in my reply that I was going to I've shared the wrong screen. Hold on. This is such a terrible start. So I'm your first subscriber. Looking forward to more content. Christine, congratulations on being the first subscriber. First one to get a comment in as well. If we ever get
Christine.
1 million or 100,000, I think every time we hit a point.
What do you mean if?
When we hit those points where we're at, 50,000, 100,000, I think we need to refer to Christine as where it all started. I definitely think,
rightfully so. Thank you, Christine.
So this week we've got a few things lined up, and I thought what would be good because there was actually some really interesting news. I think, from my perspective, we spoke about the Askren Jake Paul fight last week, which was which was the first video that we published on here. And one thing I think we mentioned was we did talk about Joe Rogan, and actually Joe Rogan has commented on his views on the fight. I think he must have watched the stream that we did last week. And I think I got the impression that I influenced some of his thinking because it sounds like he's leaning a bit towards sort of my point of view. It's a bit awkward. So let me just bring this up here. So last week, Joe Rogan said, one thing I don't believe is that Ben Askren would knock out Nate Robinson in the same, I guess, way Jake Paul did. He might beat him.
I agree.
Yeah. Ben is not an explosive guy. He's very good at utilizing superior wrestling knowledge, positions, and techniques. He's strong as fuck. He knows how to get a hold of guys and drag them out. He won't be able to do that. His main thing will be out. And he was on, I don't know if you saw the stream with him and Brendan Schaub talking about the fight. It was really interesting because Brendan Schaub made a really interesting case. It was really funny how they discussed it because they were talking about, Brendan Schaub was saying, if I were just to introduce you to fighting and I said, okay, I'm going to describe these 2 guys, it would almost be like, well, of course, I know who's going to win. It's going to be Ben Askren. And throughout that exchange, I think Joe Rogan, if I were to pick what Joe Rogan thinks, I think Joe Rogan, we all agree, Ben Askren is in a fight. Ben Askren is the superior athlete, even just as a fighter, if you were to put him in the octagon. But I think if I were to press Joe Rogan, and he didn't necessarily say, but I think he thinks the Askren has more work cut out for him. That was what I took away from Joe Rogan's point of view. Would you agree that he would probably be leaning that way?
And that's what I got a sense of as well. Yeah, no, I watched the podcast. I enjoyed it. I like when these 2 get together and talk fighting.
I like Brendan Schaub.
Yeah, I do as well. it was quite counter to what Charles Sonnen was saying, wasn't it? Like he was Joe, and Joe is, for those of you who don't know, he was a black belt in Taekwondo. He kind of competed at that level. So as far as stand-up goes, he's a really high-level guy, and he understands that game. And he just sees numerous holes in Ben Askren's stand-up, as do we, to be fair. I think we were commenting on it last week. So his takeaway was that he does not see him knocking out Jake Paul. And I agree with that. I don't think that will happen, but I think he said he won't be able to utilize wrestling. I think he will be able to use a bit of it. I think it's going to be dirty, and he's going to drag him down a little bit. But he did acknowledge that he can win. So again, I think that's fair. Of course, Ben Askren could win, but I think I got a sense that he probably thought that Jake Paul would win.
Yeah, and that was, I think where listening to him, I think the issue is going to be that Jake Paul has been, when I've looked into it a bit more, and I want to stress, I'm not a fan of Jake Paul, and I would love to see Askren knock him out. However, I think looking back at, over the last 2 years, he's been training was it 2 years? Maybe 2 years. It looks like he's been training with boxers for the last couple of years. And I think for me, it's his size and his athleticism, because when we saw that video, we were speaking last week, we saw that video of him doing handstand push-ups as somebody who's 6'2" and close to 200 pounds. That's impressive just from an athlete standpoint.
I agree.
So, and his I don't know if you saw a video as well, him working on his hand speed. And I don't know who the boxer was, but he was working on hand speed with another boxer where it was just trying to I don't know how they measured the time, but they were trying to throw, the quickest right hook. And he was working with a few professional boxers, and he looked like a professional boxer. So I think it's going to be, for me, I'd love to see him knocked out, but I can't get past the fact that Jake Paul is going to win in an ungratifying fashion. But it's just good to know that Joe Rogan is taking his cues from me, somebody who's just gotten into the sport.
Well, we'll see how that plays out.
Yes. So Super Bowl coming up this week, Hugh. Do you care? Do you give a shit?
Short answer, no. But let me preface that. It's because it goes on later. I've watched NFL, and I love American football. If I was in the States, I would be a massive fan. I know that. I love the sport. I find it really entertaining. But I don't. I had family that were brought up in Chicago, so I'm Chicago everything. So I'm a Bears fan. But again, I can't really attest to watching everything they do. The teams, I know that you've got Tom Brady, who I've watched a documentary on. I'm a massive fan of Tom Brady as a competitor. Yeah, and I know that he's fronting up against Mahomes, who's one of the biggest names, like quarterback, the young superstar. So it's going to be one hell of a duel, seeing those two go after it. But I can't really comment any more than that. And I think because I'm a bit more of the underdog, you got Tom Brady. I've seen a documentary on him. I know more about him than I do Mahomes. I'm siding with Brady. So that's my early call, because I just want to see the old guy. He's still got, there's still fight left in the dog. So to say I mean, if Mahomes and their team kind of rally through, am I going to be fussed? No, not really. But that's the extent of it, to be honest, Sean.
Okay. Well, I think what I found here, what I want to do is just go through. I found an article that highlighted 55 things you need to know for Super Bowl.
Okay.
So I thought we'll go through it, because I've just totally blanked on Roman numerals. So I'm just going to bring up this article, and I'm getting confused as to which screen now I have open.
Is it like 55 or something?
Yeah, about that. About 55, something like that. So yes, I have the correct screen. So I'm just going to fire through these, and you just let me know.
Is that why it's 55 things? I think that would be why as well.
Things. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. I've impressed you there, right?
You massively. This is a big deal. So the game will be played between Kansas City Chiefs and Tampa Bay, making the first time the two teams have squared off in the Super Bowl. And they may mention this, but this is the first time in Super Bowl history the one of the teams is playing at their home stadium. So every year they choose a different stadium to play at, generally a warm weather stadium or a dome, just because it's in January.
So yeah.
It's just better for Super Bowl show, for making sure the thing goes ahead. It's massive. And Tampa Bay are playing, I guess, a home game. I think most of the fans, they're going to have a heavier contingent of fans, but Super Bowl is such a, I guess, a world spectated game that there's going to be quite a mix. The Chiefs are looking to become just the 8th team in NFL history to repeat as Super Bowl champions. The Buccaneers. So I'm trying to give you information to help you make a decision on who's going to win.
This is great.
I'm not going to hold you to this because I think it's a bit unfair because you don't watch football. I've watched the season. So I'm not, I think ultimately we're going to be competing. We need to show who's superior, but I think in this instance, we give you a bit of a pass.
Please. Okay.
Yeah. So the Buccaneers will be making their second. Sorry. This will be the Chiefs' 4th Super Bowl appearance before winning it all in 2019. They fell to the Green Bay Packers in 1966. So it's been a while since they've been back. And the Chiefs do have they have Arrowhead Stadium, one of the coolest stadiums in the NFL. It is actually shaped like an arrowhead, massive stadium, massive home support. So it is one of the, I'd say one of the quintessential NFL teams. Buccaneers quarterback Tom Brady is making his 10th Super Bowl appearance, an NFL record. And the thing that's interesting about Tom Brady, there was always this discussion going into this year with him going to Tampa Bay, whether his success was down to him or his coach, Bill Belichick in New England. And Bill Belichick has had a shocking year. And to be fair, they had a terrible year. I mean, to be fair, it's a big change. It's a bigger change for New England than it is for Tom Brady going to Tampa Bay. So I think it's more of an adjustment for New England. So I think the verdict's out. But Tom Brady, in my view, has cemented himself as the greatest quarterback in NFL history, moving to Tampa Bay, a team that wasn't necessarily lighting at a fire last year. They have invested a lot of money in the team, but the quarterback in the NFL is the most important part, in my view, on competing. Yeah. And he has, largely down to his play, has taken them to the Super Bowl. So I think that no matter what happens in this game,
says a lot.
Greatest quarterback of all time. And even, possibly one of the greatest professional athletes.
That's an argument.
Yeah,
for sure.
I don't think that's an argument you can be definitive on.
I agree.
Buccaneers quarterback Tom Brady is making his 10th. Okay, we've said that. Sorry. Brady, who already owns an NFL record 6 Super Bowl rings, would become the first player to ever win 7 NFL championships with a victory in Super Bowl LV. What is that? Is that
55? L is 50.
Yeah, 55.
And V is 5. Yeah.
I was trying to get there before you did. Kansas City quarterback Patrick Mahomes, who won the Super Bowl MVP in the Chiefs' last title, is looking to become the youngest quarterback in NFL history to win multiple Super Bowls. He won in 2019 at the age of 24 and is looking to do so at 25. And Patrick Mahomes, to give you a bit of an idea, he is incredible. He is looking like he is going to be the next biggest quarterback, even bigger than maybe Aaron Rodgers, who plays for the Green Bay Packers. But he already, in a very short period, has cemented himself as somebody who is a future Hall of Famer. And by the way, Hall of Famer being a Brit, does that make sense to you when I say future Hall of Famer?
Yeah, it does. Makes perfect sense.
Okay. The Buccaneers are the first team in NFL history to play this Super Bowl in their own stadium. This will be the 17th Super Bowl hosted in Florida. Super Bowl 55 is scheduled to kick off at 6:30. I'm just going to go through these so we're not spinning forever. The Chiefs are slight favorites, which I thought they'd be a bigger favorite, opening with a 3-point advantage. Kansas City got to the Super Bowl by winning a franchise record 14 games in the regular season, then beating the Browns and Bills in the playoffs. And both teams have played. I would argue that the Chiefs, in my view, have played harder opposition than Tampa Bay. That's just my opinion. The Buccaneers got to the Super Bowl by going 11-5 in the regular season, their best finish since 2005, and beating Washington, the Saints, and Packers in the playoffs. They notably lost to New Orleans, the NFC champion, twice in the regular season, before edging them in the divisional round. Andy Bruce and Bruce Arians have only coached 2 games against each other. This will be Arians' first Super Bowl appearance. Reed will be making his 5th, and he was my team, Philadelphia Eagles. He was the Philadelphia Eagles head coach for many years before he went to Kansas City and won a Super Bowl last year. Both teams' quarterbacks ranked in the top 5 in the league in passing and touchdowns. Both Brady and Mahomes ranked in the top 3 in passing. Both quarterbacks also hold an impressive conference championship track records. Brady has appeared in 14 different AFC or NFC title games, winning 10 of them. Mahomes, meanwhile, has appeared in 3 straight, winning his last 2. The offensive bread and butter for both teams, as you may have guessed, is throwing the ball. Although I would argue that Kansas City has a better running game. They have a lot more tools as far as an offensive unit are concerned.
I'd agree.
So there, would you agree? Because I said that.
Yeah, I've taken a piss. I've got no idea.
Yeah, I mean, it would make sense. I think you need to take all of your cues from me here.
I'm just trying to build myself up here, Sean.
So they're combined 16 career Pro Bowl honors between the Buccaneers and the Chiefs. So they've got a lot. Tight end Travis Kelce is the Chiefs' deadliest weapon outside of Tyreek Hill. So they have a guy who's stupidly fast. I don't know if you've heard the name Terrell Owens.
I have.
So recently, Terrell Owens and Tyreek Hill, who is their speedster, he's probably one of the fastest players in the NFL. Raced a incredibly fit Terrell Owens. Terrell Owens must be pushing 50, and he looks like he's in the shape of a 30-year-old. And he was fast. I think he ran a sub 540. Tyreek Hill gave him, I think it was a 20-yard head start over a 100-yard gap, and was able to beat him, which is incredible given the gap. Comment here. Afternoon, Christine. You missed it. We said hi. She's here. First comment. It's good to see you. So moving forward, it was a big
just
deal.
to let Christine know, if you check the start of this video when we launched it, we do pull you up on screen and thank you. So thank you again for being our first subscriber and commenter.
Just going through. Speaking of big plays, no one hits. I just want to find some other interesting points here because we've gotten through all the big name points.
Brady's 43. Jesus.
Yeah, Brady has a really strict diet. There's a lot of videos out there with people trying to recreate the Brady diet. He's very strict with what how he takes care of himself.
Mate. How he takes care of himself. That's the doc I saw. It was fascinating.
So that's just a good introduction. I think the rest is more filler. The first 20 points or so were I think the best points to look at. So any information you need before you make your pick on, and we'll do the picks section in a second, but do you need any information, any questions you have before you pick a winner? I have stats ready to go.
No, I'm just going to go with my heart and just go with I want Brady to do it. Mahomes has got his whole career ahead of him. Brady's kind of closing in on his. So yeah, I'm back in Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Do you want to reckon a score on that one? Do you want to give it a go? Do you feel like just a win-loss would be enough?
Yeah, let's go with win-loss because the score side of it, I mean, just throwing a dart in the air.
I think I'm going to say that Kansas City are going to win by more than 10 points.
Okay.
I think Kansas City are too good. I think the Buccaneers got through the playoffs, which you wouldn't have seen in fairness.
No,
I think that I want to say that Tom Brady should never be discounted. So I'm not necessarily 100% confident. I believe Kansas City are too good, and Tampa Bay haven't been tested to the degree that, well, even New Orleans, I think that they weren't quite tested to the degree that Tampa Bay was. So I think Kansas City by 10 points, but we will revisit this next week.
Okay.
And there was one other thing I wanted to go into. So we're going to go into our picks, and then we'll do our Premier League picks. We've got our Super Bowl picks, and then I thought after the Premier League picks, we'd have a quick chat about VAR.
Awesome.
So Hugh, this week I've got a new intro. I've been dying to show you.
I can't wait.
So we're going to be doing picks every week. It's a 10-second intro to our weekly Premier League picks. Are you ready?
So ready.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
That was awesome. Love it. Loving your work.
Yes. I don't know why I thought, you know what I was looking for? I was looking for a clip from Willy Wonka where I think it wasn't Veruca Salt, but it was the other girl was picking her nose. And Willy Wonka says, I know a dirtier habit. I couldn't find that one, but then I thought, let's make it a sports theme and picks. It was just all about picking nose. And I showed it to my wife, and Nick said, yep, that is very much something you would make. So I took that as a compliment.
Yeah, it is a compliment.
Compliment. So this week, what we're going to start doing, and to anybody who wants to play along, we're going to be creating a fantasy league. I haven't decided which one yet. What I'll do is I will make a short video when we decide what fantasy league we're going to be using. But we're going to start picking wins and losses each week in the Premier League. And I thought I would start by bringing up the games for game week. I think it's 24 in the Premier League. So let me just find that.
Yeah, so we're on like the back nine now, aren't we? We're coming up to the last third.
Yes. Did I just remove that? I did. Let me just bring that up. We have the link from our chat before the show where I sent you the game weeks to prepare you. You don't play fantasy Premier League, do you?
No,
you don't have any friends outside of me.
I've got a life. Yeah, no, I just do other things.
You've got a life.
I do Football Index. That's it. That's kind of as fantasy as it gets.
Yeah, player investment type thing.
Yeah. Do you still play then, Sean?
I actually made quite a bit of money on one player, relatively speaking, and I was in a bit of a situation where I had to cash that in for something. So we had to get a new roof thing, and I just didn't want to dip into my pocket. So I decided it was time to cash in on Mane.
Oh, you're talking about Index now. Okay.
Oh, isn't that what you're talking about?
So you've stopped Index. Do you do
Yes.
you do fancy? Yeah.
Yeah, I just do the fantasy, and to be fair, I've not been brilliant at it this year. I've not picked it up, and I've set my team, and I'm do well the weeks that I make my picks, but there's just a lot of weeks I'll get to game day, and because the games are coming so thick and fast this year with COVID and with the unusual scheduling of football matches, so that they're on TV.
There is a lot.
It's just by the time they come around, I'm like, oh, I didn't bother picking my team, and I've got a captain who's now in. So Mane, I think, has been my captain for the last 2 weeks, and he's not gotten a game. Yeah. So I'm going to try to get the correct screen shared now. I am so bad at this. All right. And Christine, if you're listening, we started this channel because our Bearded Philosophy channel. Nobody likes it when we talk sports. So we do have another channel if you did want to check that out, called Bearded Philosophy. Again, part of our empire, as Hugh says. So games to pick for next week. So I am going we'll add these games onto the pick'em that I'll set up. And like I said, I'll make a quick video in-house just to let people know where to find us if they want to join in on the action. Hugh, you and I are going to be competing just in general. You know what I think we're going to do, actually? I think we were going to compete on a gambling site of some sort. We'll have to discuss how we do that, because if we do a gambling site, then that means the Joe Q public can't join in with us.
Well, we can do a tape. We can do some fantasy football side of things, can't we? And the betting thing can be a side thing. You know, that can be like an
maybe
additional...
the betting thing is for us, and we can do we'll find a pick'em that people can join in. So if you're happy to do both of those each week, I'm happy.
For example, what we could do is do a game of the week. So we have a look at the whole week here, and we then write down, is it home, away, or draw? And that will get everyone else involved in. Then we'll select a game, which we'll try and pick. You know, if we're looking at this week's, it may be Man City Spurs, or it may be Leicester Liverpool, you know, like a big clash. It doesn't necessarily have to be the best teams. I just think it's one that maybe it's a rival, you know, a close rival as well. But that one looks like a good pick potentially. So then we would bet on the outcome of City Spurs.
So maybe we take the City Spurs game and we find something that we can, because if we agree on it, it's not as fun if we agree on the outcome of that game. And I think City Spurs is a foregone conclusion in my view.
I'd agree with you. Well, actually, no. Harry Kane's back, isn't he? He came back today, scored a goal, was involved in the second counter-attacking team. But City are looking pretty solid at the back, so yeah, I think you still got to go City, right?
Yeah, I do too. So if we go down the list, Liverpool, Leicester, Liverpool,
big game.
Yeah, I mean, if we take a look at last week, I mean, Leicester are playing really well. Let's just take a look at this week here. So just going on form, Leicester
playing there right now.
They're playing right now. I was going to say, yeah. Spurs beat West Brom, and that's why I'm not too hung up on Spurs. You know, lighting any tires. You know, West Brom are just pitiful right now. So Liverpool haven't played. They lost to Brighton, didn't they, 2 weeks ago, or two game weeks ago?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, which again kind of backs up my point. Can you remember me saying how disappointed I was with United, Liverpool? They were there for the taking. We really wussed out of it, and Brighton have broken their unbelievable home record. So Liverpool were like undefeated for 2 seasons. It's the cauldron there, one of the hardest places in the world to play. We should have taken that from them, but Brighton did. Fair play to them.
I think that's...
mate, they're a tough team. I remember when United played them early on, like 2 weeks in a row. They gave us troubles, and I was impressed with them then. Graham Potter's done a great job there.
I think that's not. I think it's a shame though, in a way, because they a bit of an asterisk on that one, because it's not the same place, is it? Without fans.
I'd agree with you. I'm happy as a United fan that they haven't got that record, because I am jealous of it, because it's fantastic. But I agree with you. I think the reason that it's so strong is because their supporters are just like different level, and the cauldron they create there is very hostile, and it's one hell of a team to beat. So yeah, I agree with you. I think it's probably an asterisk, but they aren't going to get an asterisk from the media.
Well, I'm going to say on that one, I'm actually going to say Liverpool wins that game.
Leicester Liverpool.
Yeah, I say Liverpool wins Leicester Liverpool.
You know what? Then that's one I could be converted on. So again, if I'm going to put money down on it, might be different. But I could see Leicester. I could see Leicester turning them over, because Liverpool are so dicey at the back at the moment.
And now we have Crystal Palace, Burnley. Burnley's been in a bit of a slump recently. Crystal Palace have actually won their last two. I really struggle to bet against Burnley, but it's Crystal Palace that are at home. I see this one being a draw.
Yeah, I was going to say that's Burnley are a tough team to break down. They're going through a tough spell, but they are a dogged team. So I could see Palace not being able to penetrate them, and Burnley not being able to penetrate them back. So yeah, maybe like a 1-1 or something.
Yeah, and Burnley's got to travel. I think that's what I look at in these situations. Now the schedule is pretty rigid, and coming from Burnley down to Crystal Palace, I think that's going to play an impact. Spurs, City Spurs. I think it's City. I think it's maybe a 1-2 goal win, but it's I just don't see Spurs creating anything moving forward. So I think City.
I think Spurs can create something going forward, and I think their counter-attacking is some of the best in the UK, with Harry Kane up front. And now he's back and he's set up a few goals. They look different today. I can see him scoring against City, but I cannot see them stopping City at the moment, who are like the informed team. So yeah, City for me.
Brighton Villa. So it's a tricky one here. So when we look again, Villa are going to be traveling. Brighton have been playing well. It's prime time. I mean, for me, if I look at the goal difference, or if I look for me, it's going to be who's scoring more goals right now. Because I really don't know how to differentiate that. And Villa have scored 11 more goals than Brighton. I'm trying to do this very analytically because I am a massive Villa supporter. I see Villa winning this game just because they've got a superior goal record, and I think they're going to feel a bit buoyed by that win at Arsenal.
I think it's got I think
tough. I think it's a tough.
The thing
one.
is, in the Premier League, anyone can beat anyone on their day. I think you could put an argument forward for this going either way. So I'm just going to sit on the fence and say it's a draw, because both of these teams have shown that they can topple the best. I'm going to stick with the draw.
So Brighton, just to give you an insight, they've beaten Tottenham out of their last three.
Liverpool.
They've beaten Liverpool, and they drew drew at Burnley. Burnley are a tough side to break down, and they scored, and they were broken down by Burnley. But
Villa were unlucky though against United. They gave us one hell of a match. They could have won that. They could have scored against City and beaten City. They absolutely smashed Liverpool. They're on their day again, counter-attacking team. Do you know what I would stand by is that it'll be an exciting game. Both of them play some good football.
Yeah, it's going to be an attacking game, and that's why, as a Villa fan, finally, I'm happy to see even when they're losing, they're winning.
Oh, they go for it though. Yeah, exactly,
they're always going for it. And Brighton did the same thing.
That.
Yeah. So we have coming up on Sunday, Southampton Wolves. I think I'm going to say Southampton in this one. And Mark, who's one of my mates who may or may not watch at some point, Wolves have been playing all right. They've kind of turned it around a little bit, but I don't know that they've been convincing enough. They've won. They beat Arsenal, lost to Crystal Palace. They drew to Chelsea. I mean, for me, I think it'll be Southampton. I think Southampton wins that one.
I'm with you on that, Sean. I really like Southampton, though we dropped them 9-0 recently. They had a player sent off, and that was everything. And we just hit form when we took our chances. Southampton are a hell of a unit, and I think they've got more potential than Wolves. Yeah, so and they're at home. I'm going Southampton.
United, West Brom. I think United are going to just smash West Brom. I watched the game that they lost or they drew against Everton. And they look so much better going forward than they had in years past. But just the defending, I think they'll get away with their really shit defending against West Brom. So I think they're going to win by 2 goals against West Brom comfortably. Although it is a game that you'd expect them to lose 1-0.
You know what? I find it really difficult supporting United because we're like the almost team. It's like you want your internet to be down rather than when you have the whirly in the middle where it's kind of working but keeps breaking up. It's like that. Now we're actually we're title contenders. I don't think. Oh, have I lost you, mate? You there, Sean? I think he's closed down. Hello, Sean. Okay. Let me just check the phone to see if he's lost internet connection or if he's accidentally closed it down.
I'm back.
He's coming back.
Sorry.
Here we go. Did you close this?
All I was doing was actually trying to put a bit of a banner there, and I don't know what I hit, but it just shut down my whole browser. So I went packing. So what were you saying about supporting United?
Yeah, we're like the nearly team. That's what's difficult at the moment because I'm finding getting more anxious in games and more pent up because I feel like it's there maybe that we could win it. I don't think we'll win it. Put money on. I
really don't.
I don't think we'll win the league at all. But
the league. I thought you meant against West Brom.
But we're good enough to, which is annoying in a way because it kind of builds your hopes up. You know, it's like, you know, the chick at high school that's like she's flirting with you and there's a chance, but she'll never sleep. You know, but it's kind of leading on a little bit versus you've got no way, so then you can relax a little bit because you know there's nothing there. It's that type of thing, you know. So I feel that our defense, we're conceding against anyone, and that concerns me. They had like 3 shots on goal and 3 goals. Attacking, mate, I think we're as good as anyone going forward. We can take on anyone, but the defense is so leaky. So my concern, let's go back to this. We looked really good against Everton, which I'm encouraged by. But I'm worried that going into West Brom, they've just lost to Spurs. People will be expecting United to win, and I worry about that because Sam Allardyce has parked the bus. I could see a cheeky draw in this, Sean. And I'm negative Nancy Man United, but if we get an early goal, it's game over. We've won it. If they get to halftime and it's 0-0, I really fear for us because I think they're going to get everyone behind and just go negative. Yeah. So,
we will see. I know what you mean with parking the bus. I think
I worry about these games.
For me, it's when you have that creative midfield player that tends to be the difference with a team that's just sitting back. And I think Fernandes is good enough to create, or Cavani is playing really well off of him, and also Rashford as well. I think they're doing a good job of creating those opportunities, and they have that person now, that proven goal scorer that can I think deliver, a lot of balls in the box, a lot of movement, get West Brom out of position. They're sloppy. Even with Sam Allardyce, 10 people at the back isn't necessarily going to stop United, I think, from scoring. You know what I'd say
as well, Sean, is that Mason Greenwood last night looked.
Oh really yeah, he looked incredible.
So yeah. That was the form that we saw post-COVID last year. You know, like the March-April time when they kicked off again. That's how he was playing. So. Our front four, I think we'd say we might be the best in the world. I think that front four, that might be a stretch, okay? But we're having conversations about that. We've got a really powerful front four. Our back four is terrible. In comparison, it's just so well. The 2 centre backs, I think, are slow, cumbersome, and can concede. So I'm going to go with the United win, but. What you can tell in all this, I would not be at all surprised if we drew that game and we couldn't break them down.
Yeah, well, we will see. But yeah, I think I watched when I watched that game and I watched Match of the Day as well. The one thing I noticed, and I don't know, I didn't play soccer growing up, but it just seemed like there was a lot of ball watching going on. There's a lot of players, a lot of the Everton front four. They were playing with one up front. They were just allowed to sort of roam free, and there was just people staring at the cross coming in and not keeping an eye on, a lot of crosses coming into the box that should have been dealt with much more easily if they'd been marking somebody. and it just seemed like general sloppiness. When you started to get down close.
It was a number of people off the ball, I think, and Shaw. It did. I was super annoyed at the TV watching Shaw run out to. I can't remember who crossed the ball into James Rodriguez, but if you see Shaw, it comes into the box, gets nodded out wide, and Shaw just kind of half-ass kind of jogs out to him, gives him enough time to cross the ball back in. If he'd sprinted out to him like his life depended on it, he may have been able to block it. And I just would want to see that type of urgency from a world-class team. But
yeah, Leeds Arsenal. I'm going draw.
Yeah. I'll make interest. I'll go with Arsenal on that. I'll go with Arsenal to turn a corner, but I could absolutely see that. Yeah.
I've got a thought for how we can move forward with our competition, and I'll double back to that. But I think it has to do with going through the scores and finding where we're different when it comes to the betting front. Cool. So Everton, Fulham, Everton. I don't see. I mean, Fulham.
Agreed.
Draw. They drew to West Ham, which is they're playing really well. West Ham lost to Leicester. Drew to West Brom 2-2. That's not inspiring. Drew to Brighton. I think that's an easy loss. Even when Everton lost or drew, they look good. They look dangerous going forward. So I think it's a no-brainer there. West Ham, I think that's a given.
I'd agree with you on that. On the current form, I think you've got to lean that way.
Chelsea, Newcastle. Newcastle has been tough to break down so far over the last couple of weeks, I think. I'm not saying that's an automatic Chelsea.
Did you watch them versus Spurs in the week?
No, I didn't. I heard that was a boring game.
It was boring because Tottenham were awful. Tottenham, without Harry Kane, just looked. They were slow. They looked panicky on the ball. They were kicking out, and Chelsea looked really comfortable. And they scored a couple of goals which they deserved, and it was game over. So it was dull because Tottenham had no fight in them. It was quite hard to watch as the Spurs. The Spurs are my second team, by the way, because my dad supported them and many of my friends do. So to that end, Thomas Tuchel, I don't know what he's done, but Chelsea just looked really confident. They're due to play tonight, so we're interested to see how they get on. But I'd have to back Chelsea from the team that I saw against Spurs.
I think I might go draw because I think you get that initial bump of that initial new manager bump, and I think you're going to see a little bit of a settling down. And I think Newcastle, say what you will about Steve Bruce, I think he's still a very good manager, not maybe the most exciting manager, and he doesn't always, when he was the Villa manager, not always in agreement with every decision as far as who he played, but as far as being well,
I like Brucey.
Yeah, being well drilled, being well organized, they've made a bit of a turnaround. They've won 2 out of the last 3, and they beat Southampton, and although granted, they probably could have drawn or even lost to Southampton with the number of opportunities, but they beat a very good Everton side on the 30th. So I think draw. I'm going draw. I think this is a better team parking the bus a bit against Chelsea. And finally, last 2 games, Burnley, Fulham. Again, I'd have to go Burnley at home on that one.
Me too on that.
For the same reason. Fulham, long way to go. Burnley, very good side. And Everton, Man City, I think that's going to be, of all the weeks, this is probably one of the more difficult games to pick. I think, again, Everton have been playing well going forward. Not a lot in it between, how far they have to go to the game. I
think it's City all day long from what I saw. Everton last night, we should have beaten them 4-5, and I think City will, but they won't be. City aren't as vulnerable as United at the back. So if Everton show up the way they showed up against United, they're going. I could see City walking over them.
I see it being like a 4-2 affair. I think Everton are going to have their chances. I'm just looking at the goal score, like last 5 weeks or last 5 games. City have won fairly comprehensively in most. They only beat Sheffield United 1-0, beat Burnley 2-0 at Burnley. So I would agree. I'd say City on that one.
Yeah.
So where have we differentiated here? We need to start taking notes here. I think
I think Leicester Liverpool is a potential because
what did you say on that?
I could see Leicester taking that, and you were saying Liverpool.
All right, let me just make a note here to myself, and I'll put it on our private chat so that we know what we're going to do here. And I think we need to discuss how we're going to do this. But I think what we do, since this is our first stream, I think we may as well just sort of chat it out. let's pick the ones that we differ on, and then let's put. Should we just say a pound a game? With
I'm up for that.
And then we find,
and we'll see where we're at the end of the season. Yeah,
yes, we see where we're at the end of the season. We'll also do a pick 'em, so we can fill out our pick 'em. You could probably do it live whilst we're going through this. So we're just sort of nailing that all at one go. But we'll do a pick 'em. We'll set something up that anybody who's subscribed to us can follow. And then Hugh, you and I will have our weekly betting update. So I think we said that it was you picked draw and I picked Liverpool.
No, I was going to say Leicester. So I think it's better if we do an actual opposite team as opposed to a draw as well. I think that's more exciting.
Okay,
so Leicester Liverpool was for sure. I think we were in agreement that Palace Burnley, we agreed it would be a draw. City Spurs, I think we both went City. Brighton, I went with a draw. I think you met. I can't remember who you went with on that.
I went with Villa. I think Villa by one.
So we have a
I was
different one there.
Torn on that one.
Southampton, we both went Southampton. I think.
Yeah.
United, I think we both went for it, although I wouldn't be surprised if anything else happened. Arsenal Leeds, I went.
I think
Arsenal,
I said draw.
Did you? Okay. Everton Fulham, I think we both did Everton. West Ham versus Sheffield, we went West Ham. Oh, Chelsea Newcastle, I went Chelsea. You said draw.
I reckon we just put in the pounds for each one we differentiate on with the draw win, just to get the volume in there. And at the end of the day, it's so you said draw. So let's do Liverpool. I think Villa, Brighton. As long as you remember and bet the right thing. Villa, Brighton. I said win Villa. You said Brighton draw. We said it was Chelsea Newcastle. I said draw. And you said Chelsea. Yep. So I'm just going to write the names of the team so we know who to put money on.
It Everton City? Did you? Yeah, you said City, didn't you?
Yeah. So I think the three that we differed on were Leicester v Liverpool, Villa Brighton, and Chelsea Newcastle. So if we put a pound down on what we think the outcome will be, we'll set up an account, on a clean account that we only use for Bearded Philosophy or Bearded Sports. Got to get used to the new name. And then at the end of the season, we see who's got the most bucks, and that will be the winner. Just all the glory, all the adulation, and keep in mind, I'm not from this country, so it'll be even more important if I win.
So we have, just to be clear as well, this is our Premier League till the end of the race to the end of the league. We're going to have a Champions League one, perhaps, or a FA Cup one. We can talk about that separately. But this, I think we should have a Premier League one to the finish, where we look at all the fixtures, and we can do separate knockoffs and one-off specials, I think, as a side, if you fancy that.
I say we go tilt, because we can include the Champions League and all that in the same thing, because at the end of the day, it's who's going to have the most money in the account where we differentiate. And I think what we do is the season ends every year, let's say July. So even the NFL starts up, if you start paying attention to that. NBA starts up October to July, I think, or something like that.
There is a bigger gap. So normally the season would finish earlier than that. It would finish in May. And then there's like a month gap until the Champions League final. So that's what I was thinking. There'd be that like gap in between. So we could kind of cap. The FA Cup will be, I think it's before season end.
It is. It's the second to last game, isn't it?
Yeah. But I know there's a lag in between with the Champions League finals. That's all I was thinking. But yeah, we can... Let's get this up and running. We can make it up as we go.
We'll figure out the admin as we go. Those are our Premier League picks for this week. And finally, I wanted to discuss VAR. I thought, because it's something we've touched on just a little bit. So VAR, is it ruining the Premier League?
So what are your thoughts on this then, Sean?
Well, yes and no. I think my view has always been with VAR, and coming from America, we don't have this conversation about it ruining the beautiful game of baseball or football or any other sport, and it's not discussed in rugby. I am absolutely amazed at how shit the Premier League are with adjudicating VAR. I am just I'm amazed at how badly they've done it and how poor they are to react to feedback. So I think it's a good thing done in a bad way.
Have you got some examples on that, Sean, just so I can get a sense of where you're at?
So the one example that I would refer to, actually, I was jump the gun there, is the offside rule, because that's the one I think I would argue that's the one area more than any other that gets controversy week in and week out. I reckon if they were to let's say they were to, just for argument's sake, that's not my view, but let's say they were just to stop using VAR for offsides. I think the tone would change on VAR a bit. I don't see it too much with other areas. What are your thoughts?
Overall, I think I'd agree with your summary. I think it's a move in the right direction. It has to be done, but I don't think they're executing as well as other sports do. So we know that it can be done better. I think that's a fair assessment. Some of the inconsistencies of the decisions are odd. I'm going to make an example now, which I really didn't understand, but it's the United draw. God, who is it again? No, the loss against Sheffield United, where actually I really loved the way that we played against them, but Sheffield just battled like hell, and they really did a great performance. De Gea had a bit of a shove, and he kind of was shoved, in the corner position, dropped the ball, and they scored from it. It was like, well, is that not a penalty? And they even at the moment were like looking around, is this not a penalty? And they're like, no, they're deemed it's not enough. It's like, right, okay. He was roughed up a little, but that's fine if you allow the goalkeeper to rough him up, that's okay. Then down the other end, there was a very similar, in my opinion, bit of roughage going on with the goalkeeper. He dropped it. He wasn't, in my opinion, impeded and brought his arm down. He dropped the ball, and we put it in the back of the net, and then it was given. It was a free kick was given. So it's some of those inconsistencies that I find really difficult in the same game with the same referee making a call, that if you're allowing the goalkeeper to be a little bit roughed up in the first part, why are you not letting it? I couldn't differentiate. But your point on the offside, I think, is spot on. This whole armpit and foot, and I find it's quite tedious. I don't think I've got a solution for it, though. I've got to be honest on that front. But I'm going to throw that back to you. Have you got a solution for the offside, Sean?
Of course I do. Of course I do. I'm American.
What are your thoughts?
So the problem with this offside rule, and you could make an argument that it's the same for everybody. And when we take a look at the offside rule, it's black and white. We can agree. I think people largely agree that the computer is probably close enough that we can say that it's accurate. The issue is, from a player's perspective, it's impossible for them to stay onside and stay on the back foot of the defender, because the margins are, I think, thinner than you can humanly control.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And this comes down to, in America, what they do well is, and this is what they do terrible here is, and this kind of goes to your point, is when it's obvious. So if you see something and you can't prove that definitively is what it is, because at the end of the day, that's the same thing that you're doing on the field in real time. You have a ref who's making an assumption or a judgment based on data that's there. And if a ref can't comprehensively say it is a foul, it is a penalty, it is offside, then it's not looked at, it's overturned. In this instance, I would have a buffer zone. I would have like a buffer zone of, let's say, if they made that area, this is going to sound stupid, but if they made it an inch more or something like that, to where it's obviously offside, the player, in this instance, they would very much be onside. They would think they're onside. To them, they would look onside. And the computer is making a determination to something that they can't control when they're trying to play off the back shoulder. So I would make the VAR, because the VAR definition is, it's got to be obvious. It's got to be an obvious, whenever they use VAR, it's got to be obvious. This isn't obvious to the player. So I think there needs to be a buffer where VAR can overturn a call. This isn't a buffer.
I think it's a really great point, Sean, and I agree with you. I think that if it's not clear and obvious, just let it play out and give the attacker the benefit. We want to see goals. Let's encourage that and get goals in the back of the net and see celebrations. And if he's obviously offside and VAR can prove that, and let's do it. I think the buffer zone is where it gets a little dangerous, because how big are you going to have as the buffer zone? And then there's always going to be the grey area of the buffer zone. So if you gave him, say, a foot, I know it's a bit exaggerated, or say 6 inches, you're allowed 6 inches.
Yeah.
Well, whether or not it's 6 inches will then come into effect. So the line doesn't really matter. But I think if if it really isn't that clear, then just give the benefit of the doubt to the goal, because ultimately offside is to prevent me from being a yard offside in front of you, the defender, so I have an advantage. But if you're talking about inches, it's not really that much of an advantage. Let's play on. Let's just get on with the game.
So what I'm trying to do here, this is the first time we've ever had a telestrator on our show. I don't know if you've noticed. I've been making some art, but this is sort of my view here. On your point, I do think that there's a point where VAR can come into play with offside, though.
Oh, no, I agree with that. Yeah. But where it's like the example above, where if you're talking about armpits and it's just someone leaning a certain way, and actually it's like you're squinting, you can't really see. Just let it play.
Because if I were to say that this line is now here, that's offside. We all would see it's offside, and it's offside to the point that the player would have had control over that, or would have had a head past and seen they were offside. It would have been inarguably offside. And in my view, especially what I don't understand with fans in this country is the stakes are so high. You know, even for the future of your club, if you get relegated, that can really screw up your club for years. Villa were in the championship for quite a few years. Had they not come up this year, it might have been another 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And the idea of VAR is to mitigate those incorrect decisions. People are aggrieved when a referee takes away or has an impact on your business model. You've done everything correct, and yet you're punished for that. Now, the argument is, oh, well, that's, what are we going to talk about? Well, yeah, that's fine. We can still talk about football. But
I agree.
To me, this is just a simple thing. Just make a buffer where it's obvious. That if it's not obvious, then you can't say that. The computer has a certain margin of error. Make it that margin of error, and then everybody's fine. And then you're not going to have these calls. And there's nothing to say you can't have a video referee stopping play, buzzing down, saying that was offside. Here's the picture. Yes, it's black and white. It's past the margin of error. Done. Go. It's fine. I have no problem with that. I think that'd be a good thing. But they're stupid, and they don't do it the right way. It's just annoying. It really winds me up because in America, we do complain about the speed of the game, but in America, I think the view on spectating sports is a little bit different. And I've spoken to you about this privately before. When I watch football, I struggle to know when I can go for a piss or get a beer because it's just going and I don't want to miss anything. And in America, a lot of the sports, you have all these breaks where you can stop and talk about what's going on. And I think we're a little bit more used to the stop-start nature, whether it's timeouts or in hockey, the puck goes out and you have to bring it together and drop the puck again, penalties, whatever. In football, it's just constantly going.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I'm a fan of American sports as well, and I've kind of been witness to that, and I can see it even with fighting as well. You got your rounds in between, and then you've got the gap in between fights. I think coming back to the initial point, it's a good thing. We definitely shouldn't be getting rid of it. I just think we could be doing a little bit better job with it, and let's try and encourage people to come forward with better solutions as well, rather than just slating it and saying it's shit. Okay, try and bring something to the table to see how we can improve it, because it's a move in the right direction, but we just need to work on improving that.
Yeah, and I do think this whole ruining the beautiful game thing is it's detracting it, but people are being a bit dramatic about this, in my view.
I think they are being a little bit, but there is truth in that. When the ball goes in the back of the net now, you never have that sprint to the crowd, knee slide. Come on. It's like a look to the ref, look to the linesman. And even now you're not celebrating straight away. It's a little bit over the top, but it's definitely taken an edge off. I think we have to acknowledge that. I
think that's because of the margins, though. I think if you were to make the margins a bit more obvious, players know when they're offside. When they are substantially offside, or even they aren't sure. And I think in any case, before VAR, they would always look to the flag anyway. And I think when they know, even now, they celebrate when it's an obvious goal. Fernandez, his goal. There was no question about that goal. Was it yesterday? The brilliant shot over the keeper.
Yeah.
And there's times where it is just obvious. And I think if you do VAR right, they're going to be more confident to celebrate because they know the videos that have backed them up. So
we're talking about argument.
We're talking about players who are not sure whether they were offside or not. So and the difference being they can, they're now being accountable for that. I don't want to see VAR used as much as I hate diving. I don't want to see it used for diving, but I have no problem if you use it posthumously for diving, just not during the game.
I think it should be one of those retroactive things where you can see if someone has manipulated that. They should be hammered for it.
Yeah,
to try and eradicate it from the game, they should be fined heavily, or bans, I think, because that's where it's going to hurt the most. Not financially, but I think actually taken out of games because you cheated. I think it's just sends out a great message.
So where can I send this idea to? Because I feel like they should just go ahead and do that. I think this image is to scale as well. I think they can pretty much use this perfectly straight line.
I think it's safe to say they're watching.
I think so. They will be watching. Not the view count is not representing that, but they will see it. They will see it.
Oh, they will see this, all right.
They will see it. I just haven't tagged things in it. So when
Christine will make sure of it.
Christine, yeah. Christine, I have a feeling Christine is an American because she was there for the American football stuff, but she left for the Premier League stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. She'll take care of it. I have the faith.
So we got to see what's going on next week in the world of sport or sports, depending on where you're coming from. So next week, I think what we'll do is during the week we'll agree our platform, our Bearded Sports fantasy platform. We'll get our bets in and we'll review our bets next week.
We do have a UFC card coming up, Sean, but we haven't really spent enough time on it.
Who's fighting?
It's Kamaru Usman versus Gilbert Burns for the welterweight title. So that's going to be a really interesting fight. I'll give a very quick preface.
Let's talk about it, because that way we can watch it and talk about it next week.
Yeah. Okay, mate. Well, Kamaru Usman is a guy from Nigeria, originally born. He's a wrestler. He's strong as fuck. He's an absolute tank. And he came up against a champion that's been a champion, Tyron Woodley. He'd been, I think, had maybe 4 or maybe 5 title defenses. He had a few behind. He was someone that was looking to go down as one of the all-time greatest welterweights, and he demolished him for 5 rounds. He out-wrestled a wrestler. He has since fought Kobe Covington and looked really strong. He also fought Masvidal, and again, he kind of looked quite dominant in that fight, although Masvidal took that at short notice. So Gilbert Burns is a grappler. So he is an ADCC in Abu Dhabi. I can't remember what it stands for now, but basically it's the biggest grappling tournament on the planet, just grappling. This is someone that performs a really high level of jiu-jitsu. So if Kamaru gets him down, which again we expect that is probably going to happen, that's where Gilbert Burns wants to be. And Gilbert Burns is far more skilled off his back. So there's a good chance that Kamaru could come into trouble and get submitted. Outside of that, which is what's quite exciting, Gilbert Burns does not mess around. He's just a pure fighter. And because he's so good at grappling, what happens, Sean, is you'll see this with a number of grapplers. Charles Oliveira's the same. They're very loose. They just let it go. They just go for it. They've got nothing to lose, because if it goes, I'm just going to try and knock you out. I'm going to try crazy things. I'm going to be unorthodox. And if it goes to the ground, then I'm going to be all over you. So there's this like freedom off it. Now, if you're scared of being taken down, then you've got to be really tight with your stand-up, because you just don't want to be taken down. You're half preparing yourself to defend a takedown. Yeah. Whilst Gilbert Burns is like, well, take me down. That's my world. And in the meantime, I'm just going to do some crazy shit and see what happens. So, this is going to be a really interesting one, because Kamaru has just dominated everyone. He's been undefeated in a long period. Gilbert Burns and him were due to fight before, but they got cancelled because Gilbert, I think someone in his camp, had COVID. And interesting, a little side story on this, they used to train out of the same camp in Florida. So they were teammates. Oh, wow. Now in the UFC, what would happen is that you would basically fight the world, but you're there as a team. You got training partners, your sparring partners. You don't talk about what happens in sparring, like who beats who and what happens. You knocked him down. None of that is shared. It's all like in-house. Well, Gilbert Burns kind of called out Kamaru Usman. He said like he wants to fight for the title, which they don't normally do in camps. He was like, yeah, I'll fight my teammate. I didn't give a shit. I want a title. So Kamaru has now actually moved camps. So you've got ex-teammates going after each other, complementary skills. Kamaru is like a beast of a man. He's going to take Gilbert down, but is Gilbert going to, is he going to attack him and submit him? So it's going to be a really interesting fight.
So we have here, I'm just sort of getting myself up to speed here. So we have the pound for pound. Actually, Kamaru Usman is ranked 5th in the UFC pound for pound. And here we have Gilbert Burns 2nd. Is this saying that Usman's he's the champion, but he's not number 1? What's that about?
So it's number 1 contender. Number 1 is like next in line for the throne. So Kamaru took on Kobe Covington, and that was a very interesting fight. He broke Kobe's jaw very early on, and just Kobe is a beast as well. They're both wrestlers, but Kamaru just he dominated him. So Gilbert Burns also then fought Tyron Woodley after Kamaru Usman did, and he dismantled Tyron Woodley again. So Gilbert Burns is, he is it's going to be a really interesting one. If anyone's going to cause Kamaru Usman trouble, you got to say it's going to be Gilbert Burns. So this will be very interesting.
Well, it'll be something we'll definitely watch, and we'll talk about next week. This is where I definitely lean on you. So thank you for filling me in on what's happening. I will definitely watch that.
And then what we can see here as well, because I just want to highlight and preface this for future weeks. Can you see Israel Adesanya and Jan Blachowicz? So they're in the middleweight and light heavyweight champion. So you can see the 2 champions there.
Yeah.
So Israel Adesanya is he's a phenom. Like on his feet, his nickname is the Last Stylebender, which is probably one of the coolest nicknames you can have. And in a title fight in Australia, which was one of the biggest live events they've ever had there against an Australian native, he had a dance routine as he came down. He was doing lots blocking, had this routine with 2 guys behind him as he went to the ring, and then knocked out the champion. This guy he oozes style and charisma. He's a great talker, and on his feet, he's 6'4". He's massive, and he's just so elusive. You can't touch him, and he's beautiful to watch. Now he's stepping up against Jan, who is just now the new lightweight champion. So the ex-champion of the light heavyweight division was John Jones. John Jones, along with Khabib, is basically the 2 undefeated fighters in the UFC. It's unheard of. Now John Jones has kind of wiped out the division and said, right, I'm going to go and move up. So Jan fought for the title, knocked out a very good person who, in a lot of opinion, actually beat John Jones. And Israel Adesanya has decided he wants a taste of John Jones, so I'm going to go and take his belt. So Israel is now moving up to light heavyweight and taking on Jan. And then depending on how that goes, that could then set up a fight versus John Jones, who John Jones and Israel Adesanya are just talking hella shit to each other. There's a lot of Twitter beef between those 2. So John will now be competing in the heavyweight division for the heavyweight title shortly. So heavyweight title, which I think you scroll down for the other way.
Wrong way. Yeah,
heavyweight title, we got Stipe Miocic. You can see there. He's going to be taking on Francis Ngannou, who is a monster in himself. So that's coming up. And then, but John Jones is supposed to be taking on the winner of Stipe Miocic versus Ngannou. But that in itself is going to be fascinating.
So I'm trying to keep up and listen and try to find these names. So we have Israel, you said, is taking on not this guy.
Jan. Yeah, those 2 are going to be fighting soon. Yeah.
So from a newbie's point of view, why is it that he gets to jump up weight divisions and bypass this hierarchy here?
Because it's the UFC. They want to sell tickets. So
this is, and what's the weight difference here between
a
middleweight?
Israel, so middleweight is 185 pounds. And light heavyweight is a big jump. It's 205. So you're looking at 20 pounds to a weight cut. So Israel and Adesanya doesn't even cut weight for middleweight. That's a lie. He does. He comes in comfortably under. He comes in at 183 sometimes. So he's a skinny guy. He's a tall, skinny guy. He's a self-confessed skinny guy. Now, Jan used to compete at middleweight, but has gone up and has looked like he's knocking everyone out. So can Israel take a 20-pound increase and take on a really heavy-hitting guy? But Israel Adesanya, no one hits him. He's so elusive. So if he beats Jan, the thing, I think what Dana White, the guy that kind of puts these matches together, or part of the team that does that, they're trying to blow up the light heavyweight division a little bit because it's gone a little bit flat. John Jones is now, their star has now left it. There's no one there. without disrespecting Jan, he's a beast, but no one really buys into him outside of Poland. He's a new guy. If he beats Israel, people are going to talk about him. But I think it's their way of they like double champions. They love people moving up in weight class and taking on that. And it's fascinating to see, can he take a 20-pound increase and take him on? So
that will be very interesting. So is that on the same card next week?
No, that's going to be on a later card. So I'll keep you posted with that. But that also goes in for the John Jones thing. So John Jones, he lost
John Jones.
So that's the thing. He's come off the list. He'll be coming on to heavyweight soon.
I see. So he's not even, won't be. He has to fight his way onto that list, or is
no? I think the likelihood. So John Jones has lost one fight. So he was a champ when he was like 22 or something, and he was demolishing guys. Again, he's just brilliant at everything. Daniel Cormier was an ex-Olympic wrestler, and John Jones took him to out-wrestled an Olympic wrestler. Like, he's an unbelievable wrestler, but he's learnt stand-up, and he's like out-striking people that do kickboxing. John Jones is he's like a freak athlete, but he got in trouble with the law because he's been taking drugs. He hit a pregnant lady and did a runner. He's a bad boy. He did coke before events, used to get wasted a week before events. He's just like a natural talent, but he's just so good at fighting. So now John Jones has beaten everyone. His only loss was from an illegal blow, which is a 12 to 6
12
on the
to
clock.
6. I
12
looked
to 6.
This up. I know about.
He beat the shit out of Matt Hamill, I think his name was. He was beating the crap out of him and lost because of this stupid elbow rule. So that's his only loss. So now he is moving up from 205 to heavyweight, which is 265. Now, Stipe, the champ, is 240, 235. And Francis Ngannou is this beast from Africa who weighs in at around 260, but he's ripped at 260. He is a freak of nature. So Francis Ngannou actually did lose to Stipe before, but he has since improved his skills and looks so dangerous. So that's going to be interesting. So how's John Jones going to cope from being 205 to now fighting people potentially 40? Although John never weighed 205, he was always naturally at 220. He's got to put on another 20 pounds to compete with these guys. So that's going to be very interesting too.
Man, I'm really enjoying this, and I'm glad we've jumped into this. It's going to take me a while to get these names down, but I think once you start watching
about it and keep weaving the thread of how these people are all like related.
Well, this is your part of the show, I think, to host. I think this is where you need to help, because there's going to be people like me who are watching this who from afar, maybe watch boxing or have not really understood MMA. And I think if you start watching it and you watch along with us, same as me, when I watched last week, the Conor McGregor Poirier fight. Did I say that right?
Poirier.
Yeah. Bush League. It's really interesting to watch. I mean, I think for me, I always like boxing before I started watching MMA because just how it's difficult to score. And it's the same thing. It's interesting to watch those boxers compete. And with the MMA, I really enjoyed how there was so many different ways, so many different styles. You're having different philosophies in fighting coming together and seeing who can overcome their weaknesses and who can add on those strengths. And, it's riveting to watch. And I even watched some MMA last night. I watched, it was the female card last night. And was it Nunez? No, it wasn't Nunez that fought last night.
I don't think she fought last night. No. What was last night? That was over in Volkov. I didn't actually watch that.
I fell asleep watching that. It was on late. I couldn't sleep last night. It was on at like 2 a.m. And man, whomever it was a African American or black, a tall, lanky black girl, and what looked like maybe a Latin woman, real strong. Both were stand up, I think, but it was just brutal. It was absolutely brutal. And I can't remember the names. Who was it I was watching?
I'm looking at the main card from last night. I can't see any of the prelims. Let's have a look at that. Females, did you say? Jocelyn Edwards versus Carol Rosser.
Let me find the where is it? Jocelyn Edwards. The preliminary card. Yeah, hold on, I'm looking at that.
Is that the one?
Yeah, it was Rosa Edwards won. I watched. It was who won?
Carol Rosser beat Jocelyn Edwards. Decision.
I think I fell asleep probably minutes before that happened. That was probably even I've seen not quite a few, but I've seen enough MMA fights. That was the most brutal fight I'd seen because the blows they were landing. Oh man, it was so Carol Rossa. So Edwards, much taller, lankier, both very strong, but Rossa was just kind of like Chandler in a way, a little bit shorter, squattier, and
okay.
Both were very much stand up. Both were boxers, kickboxers, and there was just the blows they were landing. It was incredible. You could hear them. There was kicks to the face, slapping across the cheek, and there was one point where Rossa had, I think Edwards to be defensive. She was kind of on the back foot, and Edwards to play defense was pretty much leading with combinations of punches that she was landing. Even though she was probably losing the fight, she was in a position where if she took another shot, I think she was knocked out because there was just before the I guess before the main exchange, Rosa had just I don't know what you call it. It was a kick to the face, just a roundhouse kick to the face, slap, and then a punch, and she was dazed. And then before she could lose it, she just started to run at her and throw punches, and she was landing combinations while running at her. And I think she broke Rosa's nose or did something because it was streaming blood. Rosa then threw her down and had her down and was bleeding all over Edwards. And like you could see she was trying to get it out of her mouth. But she just, it was one of those things where I think the actual bleeding was so distracting to Edwards. She was just trying to get out of that position because I found it gross. It was hard to watch. Rosa, I mean, outside of that one kick and outside of the combination that Edwards landed, Rosa pretty much had that under control, and it was brutal. I mean, it was almost as if they were, each of them were getting right through the defense of the other, and it was just face shot after face shot after face shot.
Yeah, mate. There were there are countless fights like that with UFC. That's why I find it's such an exciting sport. And you can have all the skill in the world and then getting a broken nose and having to deal with that and having to just, that the thought of that anyway, just someone come up and smash you in the face and breaking your nose and just do your work, do your normal office work. You're like, that be in the headspace to carry on and just to accept more punishment of that. And then not only that, just to get through that is hard enough, but to try and out technique and out point and out wrestle or whatever the person in front of you who's a trained beast, is amazing, which kind of brings me back to the point on the Jake Paul Askren thing. Like, for me, I don't know enough about Jake Paul, how testy he is in that area, because I know that Askren's already passed without flying colours. How is he going to deal with getting punched in the face? Because some people just can't deal with it. So
I guarantee,
and I can
punch in the face. I mean, I guarantee, I can promise you.
Of course, he's been punched in the face, but has he had how many times has he broke his nose? How many times has he felt lightheaded and his jaw's been aching because someone smashed it? There's like, it's a different, or your orbital broken, like people getting swelling above the eye and having their eye closed up, and it's that's where it's a little different. And maybe he can do all those things and he's super tough, but I just don't know.
I just don't know that Askren's going to be the guy to do that with. I mean,
maybe not.
It's if they were using the UFC, I guess, mitts. I don't know what do you call those? We're at the end of the stream where no one's going to watch. So
they call gloves. Yeah.
Oh, gloves. Good. Gloves. Yeah. They're not mittens or anything like that. No.
Well, yeah. I think you have the gloves. They just refer to it. Yeah.
So the gloves they're using. If they were using those gloves in that fight, which I don't think Jake Paul wore headgear in his other fights. That would change my view on the outcome of the fight, very much so. But because they're using the more regulation boxing gloves, I think that changes it a heck of a lot. Not that Askren couldn't land a punch and knock him out with boxing gloves, but I think it's a big difference between getting hit with boxing gloves versus what they're wearing in MMA.
Without a doubt, yeah.
And those jabs. The one thing I will say for Askren, and this is from a newbie's perspective, those jabs looked hyper efficient. Those left jabs that he was throwing in those matches that I watched Askren fight in. That's when you talk about grappling, I could see him tying up and just hitting those kidney shots while they're tied up, trying to wear him down. I think that's going to be Askren's little sneaky ploy to try to scare the shit out of Jake Paul. Let him know that this is a real fighter who you're not in it with a basketball player now. You're in it with somebody who has been in the ring.
Yeah, I like I said before, mate. I think it's going to be dirty. I don't think it's going to be a great affair, but one that I'll be tuning in for. That is for sure.
Yeah. Well, it's coming up in what, 2 months from now? Is it April?
April. Yeah, not long now.
So I think are we still? I guess we'll wait and see. I think we'll need potentially. That looks like something we may be putting bets on against each other.
I think so.
Yeah.
And by the way, I think we should kick off the bets with this afternoon's game. Oh well, actually, I think we might be aligned. But Liverpool City kicking off in 25 minutes.
Oh yeah.
What do you reckon?
So Liverpool City, we forgot about that game.
Well, no, it's on this week's technically, and we've already had the fixtures, so that's why. I think I'll fill in the air then, mate. I think it's just got to be City at the moment. Liverpool are really vulnerable at the back. They've lost a couple of games now. They're conceding goals. They're going to threaten City going forward. That is for sure, because they're so dangerous. But City look unbelievable going forward at the moment. They're going to pepper Liverpool. So I don't know if Alisson's back, but Alisson's been missing. I think it's a big loss, along with Van Dijk. For obviously, Matip is out for the whole season. They brought in a centre back from Preston, but I just don't think it's going to be enough to stop City. But I think we're in for a treat of a game because both teams play beautiful football. Beautiful attacking, flowing football. Is this the team sheet, Sean?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, this is the lineup.
Oh, Alisson's back. Okay, that's reassuring. I mean, they've got two centre midfielders at centre backs. I mean, Fabinho, to be fair, looks really comfortable at centre back, but it's not ideal, is it?
Mm. I wouldn't count Liverpool out. I don't think Liverpool are winning.
Oh, but I wouldn't count them out either. They're good. I wouldn't be surprised to see him score, but Mane
is back too. Mane wasn't in the last few matches that they lost.
Stones and Diaz look solid at the back, though. I've got to give them credit there. And Cancelo looks great going forward. That's mate. You got Zinchenko and Cancelo and Alexander-Arnold and Andy Robertson. But all four of them are great attacking. Well, Zinchenko less so, but three of the four are great attacking fullbacks. So it's a game that I love. Both teams have got a bit of vulnerability. Liverpool more so at the back, but they're both so good going forward.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and I'm gonna say Klopp's too good a manager. They're gonna be playing at Liverpool. They would had they not lost to Brighton.
Okay.
From home. I think that. So I think they're gonna have a little bit more urgency to win this.
Mate, this is a first bet then, surely, because I'm going.
I think it is. Yeah. So what we need to do is you need to tell us what platform we're betting on, and then I'll go ahead and put.
Do we need? I don't think we need to even do that, mate. I think we could just put squid on the line for this game, and then this is the first one, and then we tally it up. Who's if I'm £1 up after this game, which I will be, and then you win the next one, then we're back down to zero.
So let's find what I want to do is I want to find a not shit way to represent it commercially for the channel, because this bearded sports thing, I mean, we are experienced now. This isn't like last year when we started our last channel. We need to represent our brand well, and I don't want to just be chucking up a spreadsheet. So let me take a look and see if I can find something that we can represent that I guess commercially.
Are you in for this bet though?
Yeah.
Quid in, yeah. Okay.
Let's say a quid, and then I'll see if I can put together something that we can keep updated on our score.
Yeah, cool.
Maybe I can find an app or some sort of a program, which is like some sort of a scoreboard app or something.
All right.
We'll figure it out,
mate. I think we just keep it simple. Like, you can just write the fixture out in Excel and just write whoever's quids up. I just want to beat you. I don't really care how we visualize it. Like, but it's me versus you decisions. And
this, what's happening is you're really nervous that you're going to be losing. You don't want to graphically represent how inferior you are.
I'm all for the graphic representation. I'm not in any way. I'm anxious to get going with it because I want to have as many results on as we can, and I don't want technology to be slowing us down. I want to just crack on with it.
Well, why don't we? I have a few ideas. I'll sort out offline. I think no matter what, though, I will create a Bearded Sports Pick'em League that we can set up for not only us but for any subscribers who want to join.
I'm up for that too. That would be great.
I think we definitely need to do that. We should do that for the NFL when that comes out. And if there are any American sports you're going to be watching where you can compete, let me know. If you can do the NFL, I'll set one up if we have enough subscribers, when we have enough subscribers to do so in the US. So that'll be interesting. But yeah, it's a good start. I think good first stream. And I'll break these down again and publish these this week. So to anybody who's new, please do subscribe. This is the first time we've jumped fully into sports. Actually, let me do that and that. So please subscribe to the channel. We'd very much appreciate it. We want to get more people telling us why we're right or wrong about the picks that we're making. If you want us to talk about a different sport that we've not raised, let us know. I will be setting up the socials at some point this week because we really just made this as a last minute decision in the last week to add the second channel, and I'm really glad we have.
Yeah, me too, mate. I think it's a great shout, and I'm really excited to kind of play this out.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining in this week. We look forward to speaking to you next week. We will be going live. It won't be the same exact time because we do a show on our Bearded Philosophy channel where we talk news, politics, old TV reviews. So this is the bit for our Bearded Philosophy. But the other part of our brand is our Bearded Sports. So follow us on YouTube, Bearded Sports. Please hit that subscribe button. And that's us done for this week. So Hugo, thank you so much. Look forward to speaking to you next week. And let's see what happens on our bet tonight.
Yeah, indeed. Good luck, mate. Have a great week.
All right. Take care, everybody. We'll speak with you soon.